Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of my knitting podcast. Right now I am thinking I want to do these every week because I knit quite a bit. So I do think most weeks I would have some things to update you on. So this week I want to briefly talk about the things that I have finished, the things that I have started, the things that I am thinking about picking up again. I already gave a little bit of a preview last week, and still I guess kind of the things I am thinking about starting sometime soon as well. So without further ado, let's get into the things I have recently finished. Alright, I kind of keep forgetting to talk about the stuff that I'm actually wearing. So today I am wearing not one of the nap dresses that I showed you in the first episode, but this is a nap dress that I made 1 or 2 years ago, I think. So it's in this lovely cotton light pink pinstripe, and today I have paired it with that little crocheted vest that I showed you recently, which makes you feel like a little squishy cloud, which is really nice. And currently I'm not wearing any socks, and I think I'm going to pair it with one of the pairs of socks I have finished this week. So as you might have guessed, because I already teased them a little bit last week, I did finish this pair of socks with the contrasting heel and toe. I am very happy with them. The yarn was a little bit scratchy, but in a way that I think is fine to try and deal with when making socks. I am trying to make taller socks and socks that are a little bit more slouchy, so I would usually, when I want just like a more regular sock fit, I will make them on 2.25 millimeter shorty needles. These I made on 2.5 millimeter needles, and I casted on 60 stitches. I did a 1x1 ribbing cuff for 25 rounds. The leg is 100 rounds. Then I do a heel flap and gusset heel with the gusset decreases. For me, I am a European shoe size 41. So after I am finished with my gusset decreases, I knit another 45 rounds before I switch my color to the contrasting toe color. Then I knit another 10 rounds, so 55 in total for the foot, and then I go into my toe decreases. Then I Kitchener stitch my final, I will end up with 4 stitches on each needle, and then I Kitchener stitch those together, and then I have a lovely pair of socks finished, after I do it twice, of course. I always use this little guy to kind of work a little bit of extra fortification along the toe here, because with the way I tend to do this, I do find that it can be a little bit gappy sometimes, and I like to just preemptively just run my thread after Kitchener stitching it, kind of weave and zigzag through that toe part to just preemptively put some extra fortification in there. And I think that really helps the socks stay nice for longer, basically. So I really enjoy that. And I tend to use these types of shorty needles, the Chalgu twists. I think they're really nice. They work really well for me. But there's lots of different ways to knit socks. There's the DPN method, which I abhor. I really don't like doing that at all. And there's the magic loop. I understand the magic loop better, but it's still not my favorite. Sometimes my hands do get a little bit cramped up when I use the shorty needles, so I try not to if I know, for instance, that I'm going to be doing almost like a full day of knitting, which is my favorite type of day, of course, I will try and make sure that I won't just be knitting socks for that whole day. Otherwise, I do notice that my hands start protesting a little bit near the end of it. Yeah, so that's this pair. I'm really happy with it. I wore them yesterday, and they're really nice. They fall down just a little bit on my leg, but they fall down like the perfect amount. I think next time I want to make something closer to knee-high socks, I think 60 is actually enough stitches to get there. This is stretchy enough that I think it can get up to my calf for me. The other thing that I finished is this other pair of socks. As you can see, these are quite a bit bigger. I actually went for a lot higher number of stitches that I casted on for this, but I still, beyond that, followed kind of the same method of doing the 1x1 ribbing for 25 rounds, but I casted on 80 stitches instead of the 60 I used for the other socks. Also, again, you can see the contrasting yarn that I used for the heel and for the toes, which I think turned out really nice. In general, this color I would say is lovely and autumnal. I think it's really pretty. I do think it is actually not really necessary for me to cast on such a high amount of stitches for knee-high socks. These are more knee-high, but because I casted on such a high number of stitches, they really fall down my leg, which is fine. This was just kind of an experiment, and I guess they will just be my super slouchy socks for the oncoming fall and winter seasons. I'm really excited to wear them. I have not quite worn them out yet. You can also see I ran out of my original yarn I was doing this with. This is the Zarbel Crazy. I forgot the color name, but I ran out of it. I definitely would not have run out of it if I would have just casted on the 60 stitches as I did with the other socks. These are also knit on 2.5mm shorty needles, but because I ran out, I decided to use just one of my other sock yarns that had a similar thickness to them. You know how it is, even if it says it's all just like a fingering weight, not every fingering weight yarn is created equal. This one had a really similar density to it, so I liked using it to supplement this one, and I consulted my girlfriend on which would be a good color match, and she said that this one would be, so I went with this one. I think it's fine. It would have been more ideal to just finish the whole sock with the same yarn, of course, but I'm not mad about this. This will just go into the shoe part, even if I'm wearing like little clogs or something, so I'm fine with this. This is absolutely not a problem to me. Also, I really like how squishy this other type of yarn is. I think this is an undercover otter color. And that's, again, like both of these are fingering weight, but this one is just definitely a bit denser than the other type. So I liked using this for the contrasting heel and toe, because I also think it will help me with the socks lasting a little bit longer, because it means that they are already a little bit sturdier than the rest of the sock that will have to deal with a less intense amount of wear and tear, basically. Alright, let's get into my current whips. My first whip is in my lovely little project bag that I showed you last time. I'm still wanting to make a few other project bags, but for now I'm still very pleased with the ones I did make. And in this cute little project bag, the project bag and what is in there is actually a very good color match. So last time I said that I was looking forward to making some ruffle socks from Petite Knit. I had kind of an idea about how you could go about maybe making a ruffle sock, but I felt more comfortable buying a pattern and having someone explain it to me that had spent more time thinking about it and conceptualizing it, and just following that pattern and just learning from that. So that is what I did with the Petite Knit ruffle sock pattern. So you can see here the adorable little ruffled edge and then the colors of this sock I really like. This is the yarn that I had left over from those leg warmers that I made that I showed in the first video, and it has a folded over edge. I have done a folded over edge before. I have not done it on such a tiny scale for socks before though. The one that I did before was for the Petite Knit Sonia sweater, I'm quite sure. So this was finicky. Also, you cast on over 200 stitches to make the ruffle edge, which, as I just said, usually I cast on around 60 stitches for a regular sock, 80 if I want to go crazy with it. So casting on over 200 stitches and making sure they don't get twisted, because I was still using the little shorty needles. I just have like a slightly longer version of them. that I tend to use for sleeves and stuff as well. So I used that to cast on the over 200 stitches, and then I popped on one of these little stitch stoppers that helped the stitches not falling off at the other end when I was still casting them on, and that allowed me to cast on the required amount of stitches. And then you decrease them quite rapidly, and you make the folded over edge, and then you still knit a few more rounds. And then after that, in the pattern, she uses a German short row heel. I'm familiar with that, I have done it, but in my opinion it is less sturdy than the heel flap and gusset, because there is some ribbing over here which allows for a bit more cushioning on the heel part, which is one of the parts of the sock that rubs the most on your shoe. And I'm very comfortable and confident in my heel flap and gusset way of making socks. So as soon as I was past the part of the pattern where I really needed the instructions, so for the ruffle and the folded over edge, I just went back into my regular sock making ways and finished the rest of the sock. The second one is also in the works. It looks a little bit sad and weird, but that's fine. I finished the ruffle part and I finished the folded over edge part, so now I just have to knit down to the heel flap and gusset and just dive into the rest of the sock making. The pattern's really nice. It's definitely really finicky to cast on so many stitches in the beginning, but knitting is finicky, especially if you haven't done something before. So I was fine with learning something new, and it was really nice to just have really clear instructions on what you are meant to do. And I don't think I would have come up with the idea of doing the folded over edge like that. So for me, buying the pattern was definitely worth my while. So next up is my whip that is in my currently largest project bag. It is starting to bulge out of it just a little bit, which is fine. Let me just get it out of there for you. I'm still working on this, so I have to be careful and gentle not to rip out my little shorty needles over here. As I said, I really like to use those for sleeves and stuff. So this is going to be eventually my ballet wrap cardigan. As you can see, I have finished one of the sleeves. I made it nice and long for my long arms. And I have made the I-cord strap. I have always seen people complain about making I-cords, and there's something like the cordsmith. It seems like people feel like you need tools for it to skip that step, but I don't know. I was knitting it, and to me, it was just kind of fine. It was really repetitive, of course, and it's really small. I have been using these little wooden DPNs to do it with, especially the I-cord, like the long tassel that this cardigan requires. That was maybe just a little bit tedious, but it also, I don't know, I thought it was kind of fun. Actually, I really enjoyed just continuously knitting it. It's this technique where you knit it from one side to the other, and then instead of turning it, you just kind of slide it to the other side and then start knitting it on this side then again. I enjoyed that. I thought it was fun. I don't really have trouble with it. I still have to do it along the entire neckline and on the sides of the body. So I'm not done with it yet. This is the pink with the green flecks that I'm using for the majority of the cardigan is that lovely Life in the Long Grass yarn that I showed you. I think I'm actually going to be left with an entire ball of it. Right now I still have more than half a ball left, and I only have to do one more sleeve, and I will not be needing it for any of the finishing touches because I am using that undercover otter and the mohair from Stephen and Penelope for that. So I guess I am just in general using a significant amount less of that yarn because I'm not using it for any of the I-cords, and the I-cords do eat up quite a bit of yarn. I don't know if you can see, but you can see the lovely like little green halo of the mohair, because I also just needed a little bit extra to get it the fingering weight undercover otter yarn closer to the DK weight of the Life in the Long Grass yarn. So I'm not finished with this yet, but it's going well and I really like it. It's really squishy. This is one of my first projects in quite some time that is in a DK weight. I usually really prefer to knit with 2.5mm needles at most, maybe 3mm needles at most. So doing this on 4mm needles with a DK weight, that is kind of a different experience for me. But I must say I'm really enjoying it. Yeah, and I'm kind of curious to see what I'm going to do with my extra ball of Life in the Long Grass yarn. When I was looking at the Petite Knit Oslo Hat pattern, I was doing the calculations which size I would be needing and how much yarn I would need for that. So unfortunately for me, I almost always need to make one of the largest hat sizes. And I was looking at how much yarn she says you would need for that, and that would mean, because I was also thinking of doing it with Life in the Long Grass DK weight yarn, but that would mean I would need 3 of these balls to knit a hat, which also would mean I would make a hat that's 300 grams, which that, I don't know, maybe I'm entirely off and I'm super wrong, but that seems like a crazy amount of yarn to me. So I'm not so optimistic that I think I'm only going to need 1 of these. So I do think I will eventually buy some other Life in the Long Grass yarn. I do have my eye on a lovely color of theirs, so we'll see how that goes or when I get around to that. But I just cannot believe I would need 3 balls of that. I know the fabric you knit is eventually folded over and it's going to be double, and there's a folded over edge as well, but 3 of them seems crazy to me. So I think I am going to roll the dice and just buy 2 more skeins. And the color I have my eye on is actually, it's not similar, but it's kind of close in saturation. So if push comes to shove, my plan is to save this extra ball for a little bit longer until I get around to knitting that hat. And if I do run out of yarn, in which case I will really need to eat my words, but then I can supplement it a little bit with this yarn, and I think that would work out just fine. So I'm not going haywire yet with trying to think of what I want to make with the leftover yarn from this, but I'm going to hold on to it a little bit longer in case I needed to supplement that hat. And actually, best case scenario in my opinion is I would also have some scraps left over from that color I have my eye on to make the Oslo hat in, and I could actually combine that with this and then make something fun out of that. But we'll have to see. I'm not committing to anything. I'm also not committing to the Oslo hat yet. I have committed to this extra ball of yarn unknowingly, but that's fine. I guess if I would have used this for all the I-cord edging and the straps and everything like that, I guess I would have maybe needed to dip into this ball, but since I'm using a contrast color for that, I don't have to. So I have this lovely squishy extra ball of yarn to do some other fun things with. So last week I showed you this lovely capelet that has been on my needles since last year. I have moved it into one of my official project bags as kind of a sign of like, all right, I'm gearing up to get ready to actually knit with this. Again, like I said, I'll have to reread the pattern a little bit. I still remember that the stitch markers are to indicate where I need to place increases. I don't quite remember how I make the increases or how high the frequency is. I think maybe if I can, I should transfer them to larger needles, like needles with a longer cable, so I can also try it on a bit and see how I feel about the size. I also have found my backup ball of this yarn, and it still has its label in it, which is wonderful because that's not always a habit I have. So I can actually tell you that this yarn is from Black Elephant and it is called Amélie. It is a 100% superwash merino. It's 100 grams, 366 meters. So that should be more than enough to make, like, I'm not making a cape out of it, I'm just making a little capelet out of it. So I am thinking it will fall maybe max until my elbows. So I'm excited to actively start knitting with this again. I'm not quite sure when I'll actually do that, but maybe even in the oncoming week. We'll have to see, But me placing it in one of my favorite project bags is a sign of cautious optimism and slight commitment, I guess. Next up, I also have this bag that I use as a project bag. Is from Soster & Gren. I also have this lovely unicorny, narwhally, plump looking Beanie Baby on it, which is absolutely adorable. And what is currently in here is all the stuff I think I want to have ready when I start making my best vest from James & Watts. So I already gave you a little bit of a preview, but I have gathered all the different mohairs as well that I'm going to want to be using with this. And I have wound the skeins that I hand dyed yesterday. That was a bit of a dragon to do because my skeins were so small that they didn't quite fit on my yarn winder, so I had to pull them quite tight to get them off of there, which has resulted in these poor balls being super, like, it's like no squish in here. They're so tightly wound, but they look lovely, and I'm really excited to start the best vest with them. I have my needles also ready in here. And what I also have ready in here is a bunch of cutie patootie little mohair scrappies. So let me just pull all of them out. I don't think I can hold everything and the hand-dyed yarn. So these are the mohair scrappies I am wanting to use for this. Some of them I don't quite remember where they're from. The two top ones are Glow Hair from Stephen and Penelope. Let me see if I can hold them all just like a little bit. Yes, so this is the vision, kind of. I'm excited to cast this on. I am hoping everything is going to combine kind of nicely. I guess I'm kind of the most unsure about the rainbowy kind of hand-dyed yarn and the green glow hair, but my hope is by putting some outliers in there that they will actually become more cohesive altogether. And in my world, you can almost never go wrong with a bit of hot pink, so that's always a lovely addition. So I'm excited to start knitting that. But I am noticing that I have kind of the urge to finish the Ballet Cardigan before I cast this on. So we'll see how that goes. I am excited to start this. I do think I will have the Ballet Cardigan finished in the next couple of days, so then I will probably feel a bit more ready to cast on the best vest. Because the temperatures are finally dropping and it feels like autumn is slowly creeping up on us, which is very welcome in my opinion, I am also starting to feel the urge to pull out a bit more of my more autumny yarns. So I'm excited about that. I was just rummaging around in my collection a little bit. So this is all part of my stash. Like this one, for instance, I think is absolutely gorgeous. This is one of the ones where I unfortunately did not keep that good habit of having the label with it. It feels to me like an Olivia and Oliver type of yarn. I think that might be it, but I'm not entirely sure. This one I'm pretty sure is also, yeah, I can see the label. This one is also a black elephant, just has these lovely yellows and greens. This I know is a 100% cashmere that I had left over from some other projects. This one I think is also just absolutely gorgeous. This one actually does have a label in it. Let me just see if I can get a quick little sneak peek. Yeah, that's also an Olivia and Oliver yarn. This one is a lovely and soft as well. So why have I been pulling out all these scraps and little bits from my stash? This one, Uchita Fiber Art Merino Singles. wonderful. I have no idea anymore where I got that. Maybe at Cross and Woods, I don't know. So I showed you that image of the Librarian Vest last time. I'll quickly pop up the picture here again. And as I said, I started a version of that, not last year I think, but I think 2 years ago. And I have lost it in my house, which is really silly because I don't think my house is big enough to really lose something in. Sometimes I can't find my cat as fast as I'd like, but that's about it. That's at least something that like actively can try and get away from me. But a whip that I, with my own 2 hands, have put somewhere in my house and now I cannot find it anymore is very frustrating. But I decided to not let it bog me down, but instead I am just trying to go and be inspired by all of the other yarn that I have. This is actually the yarn that I was using to make that original version with. And like I said last time, I do try to be careful. I love a variegated yarn. It's my favorite type of colorway. I have a really hard time knitting a full garment with just one color and no color variation. That is not for me really the way to keep engaged with the project. But for the Librarian Vest, I do think, in my opinion, variegated yarns and any form of cabling is not often the best combination. So I do think a yarn like this, which is just like a lovely solid green, is a very good option. This brand is called Yaku. This is just a superwash, 100% wool. It's suitable for 2.5 to 3 millimeter needles. I think I will definitely use a 2.5 with this, but I was thinking, since I don't think I would have enough yarn to make a full Librarian Vest with just these 2 balls that I have, I am thinking of supplementing it, but not for the cable part. I'm thinking for all the ribbed parts, I might want to supplement it with something like this. And I think that would be super gorgeous, and it's all stuff that I already have, and I'm really excited about it. I'm leaning most towards this one and combining these. And I'm still thinking, for a lot of the other colors that are in here, I was actually thinking I might, even though I think when I finish that shawl that I showed you recently, the lilac and blue one, I think I said something about not being ready to make another shawl for some time. But I recently saw Orchids Heart make a shawl. I think I know the pattern. I think that pattern is originally for DK weight, but she used fingering weight. And she also used a little bit more low contrast colors. And she also used some variegated yarns, I think. And something like that I think could be really fun. As I said, I'm not the biggest shawl knitter. I think it's a really big task, but again, I have also been continuously trying to kind of challenge myself and figure out new ways in which to kind of help me learn more different little techniques in knitting. So I want to have a closer look at that pattern because I think there is some light color work in there, and I want to see if that like tickles me enough to try and attempt it. I do think all these colors are very, very nice, and it could be fun to combine some of them into a larger project like a shawl. At least that would keep me very engaged in terms of switching between the colors. And I'm hoping there will be I can find a pattern, either the one I saw that was featured on Orchids Heart, or another pattern that will also challenge me a little bit in some technical way and make me excited about it, basically. So we'll see if that will be it. I'm not sure yet. I'm not committed to it yet. All right, I have one more. It's not an active whip. It's also not in one of my official project bags, but I again have been looking at my little scraps. I have collected these all together, of which I think the colors go nicely together, because I liked knitting that mini mock neck tank so much that I was thinking of doing the same but with a significantly different color palette. So I think that could be really nice, but I was actually thinking of knitting my next version a little bit smaller because I was wearing my rainbow version yesterday and I love it, and I think it will be easy to wear over some layers and some dresses as well. But I must say it is a bit bigger than I originally thought it would be. So the pattern for the midi neck tank calls for I wish. It calls for 3.5mm needles, which for me, I will not do that on a fingering weight yarn, which is what the pattern calls for. So I sized down for my version to a 3mm needle, and I made a size medium. But it's still a little bit big, and I think my next version I would like it to be smaller, so I think for the next one I will actually try and make it in a small and see how that goes. This again is a combination of, there's some sock yarns in there, some other yarns. This is a yarn my girlfriend got for me at one point, which I think is really cute, and I think I have the most of that, so I think that will be, and I say I have the most of it because I have 2 little skeins of it. So I think I'll make another one, and I think I'll do it more in this type of color palette and just interchange the colors in a way that makes me happy in the moment, and I'll just see how it goes. Because I had so much fun signing off with Bert last time, I thought I would just see if she wanted to do that with me again this time. She seems sleepy enough to be willing, which is wonderful. Thank you so much, Bertje. So thank you so much for watching this episode. I have really been enjoying filming them. So I hope you have been enjoying watching them as well. And if anything, it's a little extra special treat to see this little demon in her sleepy cute state. Yeah, she loves the cuddles when she's sleepy. All right, thank you so much for watching. Bye.